Hurricane Helene, a major hurricane and storm surge threat. Earlier, recon uncovered that the storm had intensified into a Category 1 hurricane with 80-mile-per-hour winds and a pressure estimate right now of 980 millibars, 21.9 degrees north, 86.5 west, which means it's just tugging along the eastern tip of the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, quite close to Cancun. It is a Category 1 hurricane. It has actually stalled in its intensification at the moment. Looks like there's been some dry air intrusion, but its overall structure is looking decent, and it continues to get even broader over the next few days as it continues more towards the northerly direction now, 345 degrees, that's north-northwest. It will eventually turn towards Florida, and it could provide a very large and powerful landfall for the Panhandle region. Well, there it is, with a very large wind field extending up to 240 nautical miles on that southeastern quadrant. A hurricane warning in effect for Anclote River to Mexico Beach and for Cabo Cotoche to Tulum in Mexico. It is currently 61 kilometers from Cayo Cajum, 87 from Cancun. It is now moving away. 163 from Las Tumbas, the western tip of Cuba, 570 from Key West, and 883 from Apalachicola. So the storm is well on its way, with storm surge warnings also in effect for large parts of the coast there as well. We are expecting up to 15 feet of storm surge near the Florida Bend region. As mentioned here in the primary hazards, it will be the storm surge. Of course, we may still be seeing some very strong winds as well. Could be at least a Category 3 by the time it gets there. Could still be even a Category 4 if it keeps going as forecasted, or slightly better than forecasted. But obviously the storm surge is going to be pretty astronomical along part of the coast there, from probably east of Apalachicola through that whole Bend region towards Cedar Key. So here's the forecast: a gradual north-northeasterly movement. Storm moves quite quickly. It's Thursday evening by the time it makes landfall there. You know, that's just we're getting on towards just over 24 hours away to its landfall, and it's just about leaving Mexico. So it really goes to show just how quickly it's going to move. It dissipates super quickly as well after it moves inland, but because of that fast movement, the storm may still have some substantial strength by the time it moves inland, and even well over Georgia and even into parts of Tennessee, North Carolina, Kentucky, even maybe later. So 80-mile-per-hour winds are decently supported. The latest satellite estimates are 75. Recon have left the storm. There's no more flights in there at the moment. There's one heading out to assess Tropical Storm John, which is back. But right now, Recon is not in Helene. That was that latest cone there, the 1 p.m. intermediate advisory, 9A. 80-mile-per-hour winds as mentioned there, and they are expecting a 125-mile-per-hour landfall there at that second major hurricane dot at near 7 p.m. Thursday, it shows. Of course, the timing could still change earlier or later. There it is, moving quickly into land on the GFS model, at least a Category 2, maybe 3 there. Of course, GFS can sometimes underestimate it as well. I mean, we want to potentially hope that this stalling in the storm's intensification right now might lead to it being weaker later on, but I doubt it very much, really. I think it will still be clearly a major hurricane by the time it arrives, and it's going to happen very quickly and then move inland and weaken fairly quickly. But because of the storm's fast motion, some areas will be getting stronger winds than they may be thinking that they might get at the moment, especially over large parts of Georgia there. You see on that radar simulation, still large parts of the eyewall structure was still intact as it was moving through Georgia. As for the final landfall location, well, it's still a big question mark exactly where it's going to go, but I would suggest here that Tallahassee may be in a bit of a bad spot, but still there is some significant room for deviation to places like Panama City on the western side and to places like Cedar Key on the eastern side. So significant wriggle room still at this point, but with it only being a day away, it is starting to get much more clear cut as to exactly what we're going to see, but possibly somewhere east of Apalachicola, towards Tallahassee being the landfall location. Substantial amounts of rainfall. It's not huge, but we are still looking at a few spots of high rainfall, up towards 10 inches probably in a few spots there, 250 millimeters, maybe one or two spots getting above 12 inches actually there, 13 in one spot there in western North Carolina. A secondary spot there as well in southern Illinois, getting up towards 8 inches, where the remnant depression stalls for a while before moving off towards the east. Well, sea surface temperatures aren't going to be an issue as well. I would say that these numbers that we're showing here are the lower band. It may be higher than this, and I'll convert them into Celsius, around 29 degrees Celsius where it is at the moment, and that will still be around 27 or 28 by the time it makes landfall. But I would suggest those are minimums. It will probably be higher than that, more towards 31 degrees I would suspect, over large parts of the Gulf of Mexico. Of course, the loop current is right ahead of it as well. So the only thing preventing this storm at the moment appears to be the dry air. Wind shear is not really a problem, although it will rise very quickly just before landfall. And that suggests that also it will start weakening a little bit before the landfall, but probably not very much. Here's the latest imagery, and you can clearly see there's a big hole there on that north and ended up being the west side in those later frames. But the storm is trying to fight back along the other quadrants there. Significant cloud tops blowing up, especially on that eastern side in those later frames there. And that was just the imagery lapsing there. And this is a wider shot of the storm, gradually moving still north-northwesterly. It will make that turn soon. It really doesn't really matter how quick it makes that turn. It is still going to ending up heading the same way. This is COD imagery, by the way, and we also have our own views on the Force 13 website as well, which you can check out at any time. force13.com/satellite. We're going to take a look at those in just a second, but again, you can see that dry air intrusion there. Here's the water vapor imagery on the Force 13 website, and you can see again a little bit of a hole up there towards the northern side, but I think it may cement itself, seal it back up fairly soon, and I think the storm will be back on an intensification trend by late tonight, I would expect. And that means that we will probably get into the Category 2, maybe Category 3 range by tomorrow lunchtime, and then for the evening it will be getting very close to making that landfall. So on that western side, a significant band blowing up there as well. Of course, Cancun and the coast of Mexico still getting some significant conditions there as well. This is Playa Nizuc to the south of Cancun, still getting some fairly inclement conditions there. You can clearly see some sustained winds on those palm trees, and this is the viewpoint from Cancun, where you can see a pretty dull picture there, although not looking too bad, I suppose, compared to what we might have seen here in Mexico. It is the weaker side of the storm, that western side, but hurricane warning still in effect there nonetheless. Hurricane conditions are possible. More updates on Helene on our channel.
Become an ultimate fan today.